Thank you very much. First of all, on behalf of Forum Asia, we are very happy to be part of this initiative and the recognition that Forum Asia had been part of the establishment of the NGO Forum in Mongolia and some of the processes that had taken place here. For example, the first training on the UPR and other processes involving the consolidation of the NGOs and civil society members here in Mongolia. And we are very proud of that as a regional network, and we hope that in the future we can be of help to Mongolian CSOs in pursuing their role in Mongolian society. I think it is impossible for me to summarize all the things that you have said because they are very substantial and very numerous, but I will just try to do some synthesis and some of the important recommendations that had been presented. First of all, you brought up the crucial role and participation of civil society, not only those in the cities, but more important are also those coming from the level of provinces. I think that is a very, very significant thing that came out today. What also came out is the important role of the national human rights institutions in terms of our engagement with them and also the role of the parliament. So I think these are lessons learned from South Korea, but then the Mongolian CSOs are also doing this already. But now we saw that the role that they play is very important, and therefore we should sustain and improve more our engagement with these two institutions. 3, after the first, second cycles, we learned that UPR is not so much of the numbers, as what Urna said, but it's more on the quality and the substance. So it is not in the number of recommendations or the number of promises that governments do when they go there in Geneva, but how they implement and how this implementation impact on the lives of the people. I think that is also a very important thing. Number 5, the UPR process is not only one venue, one tool, one strategy to improve national human rights and development situation in Mongolia and elsewhere in other countries in our region. Meaning there are other venues, as learned by Korea and other countries that are doing active UPR work. For example, the use of treaty bodies, as mentioned by our Amnesty colleague, and the use of other human rights mechanisms like special procedures. And we have tried this already in the region, and we hope that Mongolia will maximize more all of these procedures and all these mechanisms to improve the human rights situation here. Number 6, multiple stakeholders. It's not only us, CSOs or NGOs. There are other stakeholders that should be brought into the process, like business and especially the young people, the LGBT groups, the people, other marginalized and other groups that are not in the scene, as always. So we have to bring them all together in the process so that this will be, we will give true sense to what we call multi-sector or multi-stakeholder, that concept. Number 8, this is an opportunity for focusing for some of the groups that are working on specific themes or specific sectors, indigenous peoples, freedom of expression. So through UPR, we can organize thematic, we can organize sectoral, we can organize, at different levels of involvement and engagement, and we can use the UPR process in that way. As we know, UPR is primarily to monitor government's compliance with their obligations. And if they fail in this obligation, it becomes the duty of the CSOs or of the citizens to make them accountable. So the next step to this is the UPR is there to monitor the obligations of governments, which they promised in the first place. They go to Geneva, they go to New York to make, to make all those promises and commitments. But in terms of monitoring, we can use the UPR to monitor. But the next step to that is, what if they don't fulfill? What if they don't comply? Then the next thing to that is making them accountable for all the promises that they have made and they have not fulfilled. So UPR is a tool, is a venue which we can use to do that, to make them accountable. The other one is integration of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially in capacity building of CSOs and government. These are all new things, and in our experience and shared here, we need to develop our capacity to be able to integrate all of these terms, all of these practices and policies. UPR is also has the potential to institutionalize people participation, not just token participation, but real participation where people are consulted, their voices are heard in the process, and making them own the process and the outcome. Thus, governance becomes a joint collective effort between the stakeholders, the government, and others involved, like the business. So I heard from one of our speakers that sometimes the government forget to invite us. And it's like 2 or 3 days before the final decision is made that the CSOs are informed. So this process of the UPR is an opportunity and an occasion for us to demand the institutionalization of civil society participation, that for every decision, the civil society has to be consulted and their voices heard. And lastly, with UPR and other human rights mechanisms, we as CSOs, as people's organization, we should organize ourselves, because in this process, we are the people's diplomats. We look at the diplomats there representing Mongolia in all of the UN processes, but then in this UPR process, when we present our demands, when we go there and voice out the needs and the problems in our respective communities, then we become the people's diplomats. And therefore, it needs a lot of organizing also on our part. We should be prepared of what to tell them based on consultations also from our own constituencies. So there was a number of suggestions made. For example, protection for human rights defenders must be taken into consideration. And these were discussed also by our Kyrgyzstan and Central Asian participants. Strengthen the sub-regional network, meaning the Northeast Asia regional network, by regularly updating among Northeast Asian members and constituents. Explore the involvement of Central Asian countries in the regional network, even for the level of information exchange and sharing of experiences and best practices. On torture, improve cooperation in dealing with issues like torture, also even at the level of information and sharing of experiences. And it was expressed how to raise awareness among citizens, especially those not reached by internet, meaning those in the countryside and those that are not active in the communication network, especially in relation to the cities. And lastly, there are needs also to understand who are the human rights defenders, because before we can do anything to protect them, we should understand who they are, what their needs are, and what protection are needed to respond to their needs as human rights defenders. I think we have covered a lot this morning, and you will agree with me that it has been a very productive exchange. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Эвлин маш их баярлалаа. Одоо тэгээд би нөгөө эцэст нь панелистуудаа бас үг хэлэх боломж олгоё гэж бодож байна.